This is the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast, brought to you by Cisco. Cisco is here to help set you up for success by delivering high-quality foods, products, and services for your restaurant. Recording live to digital from the NCF&B studios in downtown Raleigh. Join us as we lead you into the kitchen, inside the bottle, and into the minds of the food and beverage industry. And now, overcooking the turkey. It's Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your host, solo today, Matthew Weiss. Max is off chasing his star dreams on this set of The Outer Banks. So good luck to him. We wish him the best, and we will see him on the big silver screen at some point. But more importantly, today in studio, we are going to virtually take you to Southeast Asia, and more specifically Laos. And we're going to talk and learn all about Laotian food with a man who has helmed the kitchen of one of the 10 most exciting places to eat in the world, according to Forbes magazine. And that is Chef Lon Bounsanga and his wife, Anne Marie. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Let's kind of start from now. Let's start from where we are currently. So you have just opened, I think you're technically still in soft openings of SAAP, which is in Downtown Cary in the Walker Building, right next to the brand new Downtown Cary Park. Talk to us about what that restaurant is and how it's going.
Well, SAAP is, we're actually approaching our second week of opening, but it's all been overwhelming. It's tremendous how the feedback that we're getting and the response. Laotian food has always been, I grew up with it. I know exactly the dishes that comes out of the kitchen itself. It's one of those things that, it's flawless. We can't go wrong, right? It's just how to get the products that we need.
Okay.
To create those dishes, and in the beginning it was tough finding them, but now that that the word is out that Laotian cuisine is here to stay. Yeah, we were able to partner up with a lot of local vendors. Mm-hmm. We have Locals is one of our seafood providers with U.S. Foods. Also, we work with.
Well, while you're thinking about that, let's dive into what Laotian food is and exactly like what are the tenets of it? What do people who maybe have never had it? I mean, a lot of people have had Thai food, and they've had maybe some have even had Vietnamese food. But what are the similarities and the differences there?
Well, the similarities are Laotian food is a combination of all those cuisines that you spoke about. But we also stem from Chinese.
Right.
French has a lot of influence in it. But it's all about the fresh ingredients that we can produce. Yeah. Because you got to think, back hundreds and even beyond that, our ancestors, we didn't have refrigerations, or we didn't have ovens. What we use what we can, and a lot of it has to do with a lot of frying, a lot of grilling, but using the fresh ingredients such as galanka, which is stems from ginger. Okay. And these ingredients, lemongrass, they've never been heard of. They have been heard of, but not by much. But once we were able to introduce this to the public, it's something that, wow, this is great. The fresh ingredients, the difference in between. You can detect the difference between ginger and galanka. Yeah. Even though they stem from the same family. Okay. But, Chinese, Vietnamese influence is, but then there's Laotian food where it's its own,
Give me an example. Like what would you say is distinctly okay? I'll lead the witness a little bit. Like I was reading, and they were saying that what makes Laotian people distinctly proud is sticky rice.
Right, sticky rice.
That's like literally the glue that brings it together and differentiates.
Yeah, sticky rice, it's a staple. We eat sticky rice with every meal.
Yeah.
Breakfast, lunch, or dinner. But sticky rice is our jasmine, is our bread, is, we have sauces that we use, is sticky rice to dip to go along with. So our food is very savory. It has very different flavors, and the sticky rice tones it down a little bit.
Okay.
And
give me a tip here. And actually, I want to get into this, and Anne-Marie maybe help, because your stepdaughter was telling us how she makes sticky rice. And she was saying, because we ate there last week, and she was saying that the key is, you're going to correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a very rudimentary way of explaining it, that you rinse the rice first in water, and then you don't cook it in water because it's got all the retaining water, and that's essentially, and then you put it in the pot or however you cook it. Is that essentially is that how you make sticky rice?
Yeah, it gets rinsed off, and then you soak it, and minimum soaking time would be about 45 minutes, and then it goes into a bamboo steamer that sits in a pot that's shaped for it, like an hourglass.
Okay.
And then it gets steamed for about 25 minutes, and then usually chef has to stick his finger in there to make sure it's done because it's too hot for me. And take it out. It's got to be flipped around a little bit to release the extra steam so it doesn't keep cooking itself.
Okay.
And then you're good to go. And like he said, Mom gets up and makes that at 4:30 in the morning, and it sits on the table all day. So it's like a loaf of bread for us.
Right.
And
it goes with every meal.
Everything.
Okay.
Everything.
I want to get into some of the sauces that you mentioned and other things, but let's take this back, and we're going to come back full circle to modern day with this being a family affair at SAAP. But I want to get into your background. So, Chef Lon, you came over from Laos by way of Thailand, I think in the late 70s. Is that right? Like 1979?
Yes, 77 was when we came to Thailand, correct.
And you came, but then you came to the United States in like you got out in a canoe boat or something like that? Is that how the story goes?
Yes, the story is that we came to Thailand in 77, and then we stayed in Thailand and in the refugee camp at the time until 79.
And was there political unrest in Laos at the time?
It was. There was so much. There was the communists was taking over most of Laos, and there's a lot of warfare that went on.
Yeah.
But we were able to escape. My parents, myself, and at the time my younger brother. I have two siblings that came from Thailand with us, and one of them was born in Thailand.
Okay.
And we came to the States in 79. We landed in Philadelphia. We had sponsored, our sponsor was David Wolf. Great guy. My parents were able to work for him. They were employed by him for a while until,
Doing what? Was he
he owned a Mack truck company.
Okay.
And at the time, that was the biggest thing back in the early 80s was Mack trucks and loading and unloading. I'm not quite sure what the detail was, but they were employed by him for 5-6 years. And then my dad and my mom went into Commodore computers. They went to work.
Oh, yeah, the old Commodore 64.
Yes, Commodore computers. And they were with them until Commodore was
basically got blown out of the window by Apple and stuff. Okay, and so how did you get into food?
Well, we grew up poor, of course, and when I was able to find a job, which was my first cooking job, was with Denny's.
Okay, yeah, Grand Slam breakfast, baby.
Yeah, back in 1987, I was 16 at the time, and back then, Denny's was, the most popular fast food, that's up and coming. So
sure.
We went there, and that's when I started. My uncle, I give him a lot of credit. He was the supervisor on duty at one of the Denny's, and he brought me in. And at the time, it was employment, and I didn't think anything of it. It was just trying to help the family out with bills and finance. But then it came to grow on me, and then he was also one of the chefs at the Valley Forge Sheraton.
Okay.
So
your uncle was?
My uncle was. Once I was able to, get a little bit more experience under my belt, then I went over to the Sheraton as well.
Okay.
As AM breakfast cook. I was able to learn a lot. And then afterwards, I moved up, and there was another hotel chain, the Hilton, which I was their sous at the time, and I got really close, really friendly with the owners of the Hilton, and I became their personal chef for a long period of time, and I got to meet a lot of interesting chefs. George Perrier from Lebec-Fin, Philadelphia, was one of them.
That is the icon restaurant of Philadelphia for sure.
Yes, and he was a great friend of the owner of the Hilton, and Mr. Oh gosh, his name just went blank. But anyway, so we were able to, and Perrier was a great guy. He was a great chef, very phenomenal chef. We had a lot of experiences. He gave me some inputs, and I kind of was there. I went to Lebec-Fin for a little bit.
Okay.
To just stage, to see how he works under the expertise of his kitchen. So, but yeah, and went to met a lot of interesting people. I went to CIA for a little bit to.
Okay. So after you had been trained in the hotels and stuff, you still went back to get like official culinary training.
It wasn't. It was actually a dean, Fitzpatrick, I think his name was. I don't know if he's still there, but he was the one that my point of contact at the time, and he would invite us over once a month or twice a month just to go up there and just to, pick his brain.
Cool. Oh, okay. So you weren't like officially enrolled, but you kind of were on the outskirts. Okay.
Correct.
And then so at what point and how did you and Anne Marie meet?
So Anne and I, we from our busy schedule back then in the late 90s.
By the way, every time you ask a couple this, there's a different story from from both sides of the story. So, or is this the story that you're both accepting, or Anne Marie, are you going to tell me something wildly different?
It's probably going to be different because
the place and the meeting, it's going to be the same, but
says you.
So, yeah. So we met at a nightclub.
Okay.
It was on Thursday.
Like socially hanging out at a nightclub. You weren't cooking there, or working there. Okay.
Socially.
Yeah, we it was Thursday nights. Yep. I remember this clear as day, because it was penny drinks.
Big spender.
Penny drinks, nice. Well, I mean, he grew up poor in the streets of Philadelphia.
Penny drinks. So we met. I saw her on the dance floor, and I was standing with friends of mine, and I said, you know what? She's really pretty. So I approached her. I said, you mind if I dance with you? And I was very forward after a couple of drinks, and then she said, no. Get away from me.
I did.
But then I was very persistent from her words.
You had a lot of penny drinks in you.
Yeah, I had a lot of penny drinks. And I asked her if I could buy her a drink. And I bought her a drink, and I didn't tell her how much I paid for the drink, but I bought the drink.
She knew it was penny night.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't.
He was a big spender.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a mystery, but
yeah. So that was it. After it took us a couple of days before she actually returned my text or my pager. Back then we had pagers.
Yeah.
I 911 was my paging technique of getting her a response.
That is aggressive. For those of you that don't know that are listening, by the way, before we had cell phones, we had pagers to get in touch with people. And 911, as you can imagine, was an emergency. That means like something is really bad has happened. I need you to call me back immediately. Yeah.
And funny.
And you used to you had to go find a payphone or a phone to then call somebody back,
Correct.
which you also needed quarters and stuff. This feels like another world, like a different planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how ironic was she was in the medical field at the time. She worked
EMS.
EMS.
So if you had a 911 pager, that was like...
I was a supervisor, so when I saw 911, I thought something happened in one of my crews.
Yeah.
So I called it back, and it was this guy, and I was like,
really? What are you doing, dude?
So that's how we connected.
Okay.
And it was, everything else just fell into place. And we've been together since 1997.
1997. Okay. And what brought you to North Carolina?
Philadelphia, as you know, a lot of the bigger cities started to change a lot. And we really wanted our kids to be raised where they can go outside, where they could go to a movie theater. We could drop them off, sit out there, pick them up kind of situation.
Yeah. Go find some street food.
Yeah. I mean, just like, be able to live, I guess, a little bit of a life that we lived growing up in the city.
Yeah.
And of course, it was hard to leave parents or whatever, but the quality is everything here.
Totally. So, but you just decided, North Carolina is that place? It was a random decision?
We were actually on our way to Florida to move, and we came down.
Why would you do that? No offense to the people in Florida.
My brother was moving here, and he's like, just come down and look. And we were like, all right, whatever. We came down, and we were like, this is perfect. I mean, we're glad we did it. I like our Four Seasons here. The quality of life, having family still here.
Yeah.
The kids being able to have cousins.
All right.
But yeah, there was no work or anything. It was just
thanks to your brother. Okay. And then so just luckily enough, there was you happened to find the owners of Bida Manda at the time, and they wanted, because that was 2012 that you opened Bida Manda. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. And where were you before then?
So
hold on to that thought for a second. We'll get back to that, because you mentioned sourcing fresh ingredients, and I do want to just pause for a quick word from our proud title sponsor, Sysco. As the industry leader in food service, Sysco's reputation is on the line with every product they deliver, and that's why they ensure Sysco brand products offer the best in quality and, as you like, freshness every time. First quality, Sysco products are monitored by dedicated inspectors using industry-leading standards to make sure customers receive the top ingredients available. Whether that's going to be your lemongrass or galanka, either one, that means you can count on consistency and, above all, food safety in every product. And as for freshness, Sysco serves up natural, hand-selected produce that's beautiful on the plate and delicious on the palate, because your menu can only be as good as the ingredients, and you deserve to shop with confidence. When you shop Sysco, you shop the best. Visit Sysco.com, that's SYSCO.com, to discover the value of fresh, quality products from Sysco Shop. Sysco, at the heart of food and service. And one other thing, not related to Sysco, but I don't imagine there's a lot of mayonnaise going on in Laotian food or Southeast Vietnamese. Is there any mayonnaise used in it at all? Okay. Well, if you were going to use mayonnaise, let me recommend it to you that it would be Duke's, because Duke's is the only major mayo brand to be made without sugar. Did you know that?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, pretty cool, right? And Duke's mayonnaise is somewhat local. It was created in 1917 in Greenville, South Carolina by Eugenia Duke. So if you're going to use mayonnaise, or you ever find a dish where we could work it into Laotian food, use Duke's mayonnaise. All right. So Bida Manda opened in 2012, but assuming that you were finding other very excellent restaurant jobs up until then, I'm assuming.
Correct. So at the time, I was at the Carolina Country Club. As their executive banquet chef. I was just employed there a year prior to opening Bida Manda. So funny story with Bida Manda was I was trying to wrap my head around, I wanted to open my own, even back then, I wanted to open my own Laotian restaurant. I was looking at spaces on Craigslist, and then I ran across an article looking for a Laotian chef. And I saw it, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. I believe in things happen for a reason. So I reached out to the person of the ad, and we connected, and he was also Laotian, which Bounsanga.
Yeah.
And we met, and in the beginning I thought it was a hoax, right?
This is too good to be true. I mean, how many Laotian people did you even know in all of the United States?
And let alone North Carolina.
Yeah.
So we met, and we brainstormed of how we want to do, our Laotian restaurant. And ever since then, things had just fell into place. 12 years later, would the idea we think that it would still be open?
Mm-hmm.
Not really.
Yeah.
The life expectancy for restaurants is usually a good one is 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
But we're still running strong. Bida Manda is. And like I was telling Ann, that Laotian cuisine is here to stay.
Yeah.
I am, considered one of the pioneers of, there's a lot of mom and pops out there that doesn't really express themselves and doesn't get seen, So with us being able to put Laotian cuisine on the map, even if it's just here in the Triangle for now, it's a big accomplishment.
Well, you didn't just put it on the map, as I said. I mean, you were and then you opened. I'll say Bida Manda was highly lauded and really well respected. And when I moved here in 2016, everybody said, when I asked where do you go eat, everybody said you got to go there. Right. And then 5 years later, in 2017, you open up Brewery Bhavana, which is more of a Chinese influence and dim sum and obviously brewery. But quickly, you were nominated for a James Beard Award for Best New Restaurant. As I said, Forbes named you one of the 10 best places to eat in the earth, like in the world, which is, I mean, that's pretty high praise. And then and Bon Appetit, also one of the 10 best new restaurants. So that was how did that? I mean, that must have been all the validation you needed at that point, huh?
Well, when we got nominated, it was a tremendous accomplishment. We were very overwhelmed, and our staff was very. When we got called to New York for Bon Appetit, we stood in their kitchen, and it was on the top floor.
Yeah,
I still remember this moment very clearly. Van and I stood overlooking overlooking the city, and we started tearing because we knew then that we did it.
Yeah.
And that it's such an accomplishment of what Laotian, just the I'm still touched by it.
That's pretty awesome.
Just thinking back now, what we started in 1977.
Yeah.
We and till this time now. And my wife.
Yeah, because that's exactly when it was 2017. That was exactly 40 years from the time of like leaving Laos and then making it full circle. So I have to ask, we're not a gossip show, but there's a lot of scandal at Brewery Bhavana and Bida Manda, of course, and you weren't implicated in any of it, which is great. But I don't know if you care to share, like, in your words, what do you think happened, or what do you want to share about that? The people that might ask, oh, well, now you're on your own.
Well, Matt, I really do want to put it out there that, what had happened, and I'm a big believer in this. Yes, it was very dramatic with what had happened, but I did not know anything until Ann told me the next day, that morning, that all this was going on.
Yeah.
I was so into my kitchen and making sure that the food was consistent. But when I got news that all this was going on, of course, I want to do my due diligence and figure out what is going on, because I needed to know. All I can tell you is what happened in the past will always stay in the past, and we can never change that right now, you know. And I always, you want to fix what was wrong, but people have their own opinions, and they wouldn't. And I was very blinded by the incident that happened, but I know that it was not accused of happening. Besides, a couple of our staff members, did not really happen that way.
Yeah.
But I'm not here to defend anyone.
Yeah.
I'm not here to accuse anyone, but I do know that, some people, when they were, at the time, it was very confusing for me, because, the people that I thought that were friends of mine, people that I have, trained my staff and managers that had my kids around, had been around day in and day out. So I don't really want to bring up the past.
Sure.
I wanna live in the present and plan for the future. But it was very tragic.
Yeah.
All of this.
I can only imagine I'm putting these words in for you, but it probably felt a little bit like betrayal.
A little bit, yes, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, I do believe that, I have not heard from these individuals, but I hope they are having a good life.
Right. And I'll just say, and then we'll move on to bigger and better things. But from my understanding, and this is just from reading stuff, is that, and I won't name names for no implications, but there was a manager there and there was sexual harassment, and it seems pretty clear that what he did, based on a lot of people, was not only horrible but illegal, and so he's facing legal charges. And then you had who was a person who was your partner, but Van Visa, who's the owner and a fellow Laotian. It's very unclear, because anybody that I talk to that's in the business, and even the current managers of Bida, Manda, hold him in a very high regard. And I guess he was advised of not to say anything, basically, and just accept and acknowledge. And so I guess from where I'm gleaning from what you're saying, and you can comment on this or not comment on this, but it seems like you kind of are in that camp where you, I don't know, maybe stand by him. I'm putting those words in your mouth.
I wouldn't say stand by him. I like I said, he stepped down, he stepped away. Bounsanga and his sister and I are more understanding now that I'm a part of anything that goes on. I am a part of every conversation, making sure that, we do this right.
Right.
But Bounsanga has relocated. He has, moved back to the homelands, and it's just Van Visa and I right now.
Okay, so you still are overseeing or have some involvement in Bida, Manda?
I
overseeing the kitchen?
I still do have some kind of involvement in Bida, Manda, but, they have been very supportive when I told them that I was going to branch out and do my own thing with SAAP.
Okay.
And Bida, Manda and Brewery Bhavana is always going to be in my heart.
Yeah.
It's something that we created together, and I can never forget it. But I am no longer affiliated with Brewery Bhavana.
Yeah. The old brewer of Brewery Bhavana took over, is now the owner of that
Patrick
spot.
Wilson.
Okay.
Patrick Woodson, I'm sorry, is the sole owner of Brewery Bhavana now.
Okay.
He was always been the owner, but there was more owners involved in the process back then. As far as Bida, Manda, it's Van Visa. She is the sole owner of Bida, Manda.
Cool.
I just consult.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. So moving on from there, thank you for sharing and being open about that. Let's talk now, because it's perfect segue into SAAP, because I'm sure now that's life lessons learned, and lessons for chef and chef owners about, I guess we have to be everything as the chef, and it can't be just about the food. Like, it's modern day chefs are business and management. Would you say that is that part of like life lessons for you at this point?
It is. It's an eye opener for sure. I do agree, and you can't control everybody's destiny. The only destiny you can control is yourself and how you treat people. And I'm always a believer, Ann and I both, that if you do your best, you give it your best, and the best will come.
Right.
And we've always, as from all of our employees to our kids to our people that we meet on the streets, that we want to be the kindest person that we can.
Sure.
All the heartaches and the headaches and the gossip that comes along, is their opinion, is their voice.
Yeah. Well,
it's up to us.
I'll just say, and so we'll get in, and you'll give me, but I my dad used to say something very, very, which always rings in my ear, and he would say, when I would introduce him to one of my new friends, or my friends would come over, that he would always say to me, I know who that kid is. I know I can tell who that kid's parents are by the way that they behave. And SAAP is a family affair. You guys have all 4 daughters working there. And one of the first things that my wife and I heard, and this was like the main ringing point that my wife had when we dined there, was your daughter waited on us, your stepdaughter, your daughter, and she said, "Oh yeah, my stepdad used to make these for me. We were having the coconut shrimp Thai lettuce wraps."
Yes.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, this was like a treat for me as a kid," and you could see like the nostalgia in her eye and like the pride that now she was recommending that, and I was just like, okay, this is obviously a strong family. So I assume now, Anne, were you involved at all in previous restaurants or Bida Manda?
Not at all.
Not at all. So how did you get involved, or what made you get involved in this project?
His persistence.
Oh.
It actually was his because I'm in the medical field and I'm very comfortable. I like what I do.
Yeah.
I love the science. But his persistence is, come on.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you got to teach me something like that, because I was just telling my wife recently about something similar, an entrepreneurial itch that I wanted to scratch, and yeah.
It is. And don't get me wrong.
Did he ply you with penny drinks again?
No, I learned that trick. But and I will say, I was on the floor on Saturday and Sunday night, and I was like, in comparison to working EMS, it's the same thing, except it's not. There's no patience. The pace, the intensity, the handling, the taking care of your customers. Same thing as taking care of your patients,
right?
Depending on the situation of the patient, of course.
I understand.
But this is all new to me, and I've always worked corporate, so I think
this is really like a new world for you. But
I think
you probably are super helpful in like setting up HR systems and all these other things that a lot of restaurants struggle with.
And I think with the industry really pushing itself to be considered a career and not just a job anymore, you're seeing a lot like different chefs become with hospitality groups where they have continuing education and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think me coming from that kind of background may be a little bit of a benefit, only because that structure means it's not just a mom and pop anymore.
Yeah.
To an extent, maybe a little bit of something that could help.
Totally.
With the restaurant.
I think that all quote unquote mom and pop restaurants struggle with that, and when they struggle with structure and writing a manual and writing, HR procedure and all that stuff, which it's not sexy to talk about, but when you have those systems in place, it just makes everybody feel more comfortable and feel like they're working within a system and a structure. So, and it lets you focus on the food. But also, so tell us a little bit about, for those that people don't know, your daughters are all involved intimately in the restaurant.
Yeah, all four of them work for us. We have a 33-year-old. She's one of our servers. That's Miranda. And then we have Grace, who is made full circle in the restaurant industry. She wanted to be a chef.
Okay.
And I said, fine, go work with your father.
Yeah.
And at 16, she became a prep. And she worked her way up to management and decided it's not my thing. So when we opened up SAAP, she's like, I want to try bartending.
Okay.
And she's our more careful child. So she's like, let me think about this.
Yeah.
But she's doing a great job and learning as she's going.
She's doing great. Yeah.
And then we have
I have to say, I don't know if she made it, but I had one of your signature cocktails, the Mekong River Rush, which was a mezcal-based drink with jalapeno infused syrup. And it was not only beautiful, but it was amazing, and it was spicy, which I love, because mezcal is a little bit spicy and smoky to begin with, but then the jalapeno infused syrup. And my wife looked at it, who does not like spice at all, and she goes, "Ooh, that's beautiful." And she took a sip, and I'm like, "You're not gonna like it." She's like, "Oh, that is spicy." So kudos.
Oh, very
hopefully
cool.
Grace created that one. But
thank you so much.
Yeah. So there's Grace, and then
there's Hera. She is our GM. She has been GMing since she was born. If it wasn't her sisters, it was somebody else.
What a perfect name for a GM,
Yes,
Hera.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very about the.
Is that related to Greek mythology?
It is.
Okay.
It is, and of course, neither one of us are Greek, but
that's okay. It all
it's
somehow mythologically combines in some way, one way or another.
It was so funny because for the first about 6-7 years of her life, if you didn't pronounce her name right, she didn't answer you.
Oh.
Even at school.
Yeah.
But she's our GM, and she's another one. Started off in prep, worked her way up, worked under a CEO for about 2 years at Bida and Bhavana when they had that, and then she was like, you know what, she likes to keep going, So she was like, I want a GM. And we're like, you know it, so let's try this out.
That's so cool and so daunting at the same time. Because it's like one of the tenets of business is don't hire somebody you can't fire.
I know.
You know? But then also you have like labor who already understands you. They're intimately involved in your success. And in this day and age, we know the one topic that every restaurant or food service business struggles with is staffing.
Yes.
And you guys have it. And like I said, so it's your daughter that is also a server as well.
Yep. And then there's Noelle. That's the baby.
That's
and she is, like I said to you before, she is our biggest personality. She had to be heard being the youngest.
Yeah, the baby always.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's good.
Yeah.
I mean, she does it. She's also a licensed cosmetologist.
Okay.
So she
I
does
can get
that.
my makeup done while
Absolutely. Makeup, hair,
awesome.
You want eyelashes? She can hook you up. But she loves serving. She absolutely loves it, and she loves the people. The lifestyle, like being in the restaurant.
And it seems like just being there and showing your bar staff some wine the other day, like everybody buys in. It really is a family affair all around. Yeah.
It is.
All right, cool. So let's get into get back to some ingredients again. So talk to me about like what are like essential ingredients that you need in your kitchen if you are making Laotian food.
Thai basil, cilantro, scallions, lemongrass, ginger, galanka, magroot lime leaf, kaffir lime leaf.
Kaffir lime.
Definitely fish sauce and chilies.
Okay.
Those are the two.
Thai chilies.
See, I was just about to say that you weren't saying fish sauce, and I was like, oh, maybe that's where the differentiation comes in between Thai cuisine, but no, you need fish sauce.
Fish sauce and Thai chilies are the two main ingredients that we use in 80% of our dishes.
Okay.
Because we love spicy food.
Yeah.
Laotians, between Vietnamese, Thai, Chinese, spice, we are the top one that loves spicy food.
Yeah.
When I was born, my mom popped a Thai chili in my mouth.
Yeah. You just, that's it.
That's
you just
it.
learn from the beginning.
It's hot.
But yeah, every dipping sauce that we make consists of, fish sauce, unless we want to go vegan, and then we can substitute it for salt. Fish sauce is our salt. Fermentation is how we, the process that needs to be taken. So, yeah, those are the main ingredients in the kitchen.
And what are the top sauces? Like, what are the sauces that are kind of accompanying the dishes there?
Right now we have a gel bong, which is a very smoky, very spicy, galanka base. It's like mole for.
Oh yeah.
It's
and that's what was served with the spring rolls.
with the sausage.
With the sausage, okay.
Yes,
I didn't have the sausage.
Yes.
I missed that dish.
Come back.
Yep.
Yes,
Oh, I will be for sure.
And actually, we had a guest that loved it so much, he asked for 3 sides of it.
Of course.
He put it in his pho. He put it in his pork belly soup. He sat there for a while, and he tried every dish on the menu.
But he always had the jiaigong.
Jabong.
Jiaibong.
Yeah. Jiaibong.
Okay. What else?
And then the gel. So gel is translation for sauce, dipping sauce, right? So gel is the main ingredients of gel is fish sauce and chilies.
Okay.
And then you have gel McLen. Len translates into tomato. You have gel mushroom, which is het, or gel peppers, or gel som means sour. So you have, when I was growing up, my dad would make 20 gels in a week and leave it in the fridge. And depending on the mood we're in, we would go in and grab it and just eat it with rice or eat it with the protein that we wishes. But yeah, so we had gel som, which is sour.
Okay.
Very, very. That gel som was what dish was it with? The
last week's been a blur.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's been crazy.
It's with crispy pork belly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny how I Bida's menu is still stuck in my head.
Of course.
So I'm trying to
Yeah, and so I guess that's another great point is I think you said this earlier, it's more street food based.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that's how you're differentiating SAAP from Bida Manda?
Absolutely.
Correct. It's street food concept that what we want to do here is items that will pair well with our neighbor, the Downtown Cary Park, but also what we were not able to implement at Bida because, like you said, Matt, we've been open for 12 years now, and the menu is 95% still the same.
Yeah.
Because if we do take some item off the menu, our fans will come and say, where did it go?
Yeah.
And we do run specials at Bida now. But, something that I could not implement at Bida, I am moving it to SAAP. So this way we can have best of both worlds. You want the street food concept, you go to SAAP. You want your traditional comfort food, you go to Bida Manda.
Yeah.
And the distance is good enough to where we're not going to clash.
No, and it's a natural evolution. And I also think, it makes sense that you can't change the menu, right? Like if you're the only Laotian restaurant in the entire state and people are depending on you to give them a picture of what it means to eat food from Laos.
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta like play your hits. You gotta go with your staples. So
Exactly.
I get that. And now you get to play at SAAP.
Correct.
Yeah. So like what's an example of a dish that's like kind of out there and is very, I don't know, avant-garde. They use a French term since you guys are French influenced.
So right now, what I've noticed that is becoming a very big hit is the seafood curry.
Okay.
The green seafood curry. It's also very comforting. Coconut base, basil, green curry is a little bit on a spicier note too. So, we have and a lot of seafood lovers are raving about it.
Okay.
So that is one of
What's the meat in it?
So we have scallops, shrimp, tiger shrimp, and mussels.
Okay.
So those are the three seafoods that we have and then of course you have your purple eggplant that gives it another texture and color to it. So, and sweet bell peppers to tone it down a little bit.
Okay.
But other than that, it's becoming a fan favorite. All dishes are becoming fan favorites, especially what was it? We had a couple that came in the night. I think Matt, you were there. She had the fried fish.
Mm-hmm.
She was dancing in her seat.
That's right. You were telling me. Yeah.
She was so cute.
I had it steamed. It was delicious.
Steamed,
I mean, it was a snapper and it was just cooked perfectly. And yeah.
And she was dancing in her seat, and she spoke to us briefly, and she said, "This brought me back." I said, back into your kitchen, back into your. She said, "No, it brought me back to my childhood."
Okay.
And hearing stories like that or hearing compliments like that, it erases anything that's negative.
Was she from Southeast Asia?
Yeah, she was from, I want to say India.
India, yeah. Her and her husband.
But she did a happy dance as the fish came out, and then afterwards, it was just.
Yeah.
That's cool.
When the food hits the soul, that's what you're aiming for.
When it gives you a memory, that's what it's all about. Yeah. That's cool. Well, this has been great. I'll just before we get out of here, let me know, because I know authenticity is a big thing for you about having somebody feeling like, no, this is like that. This is what I would eat if I was in Southeast Asia or if I wasn't. What are some of the ingredients that you can't get? And it's a two-parter. If you can't get them, what do you use locally to, I'll say, mimic or substitute for that flavor?
Well, we've been very fortunate because we also work with a Laotian supermarket.
Okay.
That's in Raleigh. He owns a storefront basically, and
where is this?
It's on Ronald Street.
Off of Atlantic, is it?
Yeah, Total Orientals.
Total Oriental. All right. Well, hey, that's the best tip everyone's going to get right now.
So I got to warn him.
He's going to get busy. The F and NCF and bump.
But he's been very helpful of sourcing the products for us, even if it's coming from New York, bigger cities where they do have, that he can source from, or he can fly them out from California overnight, and whatever the price is, we want to make sure that we get them. And also, I devise my menu around the ingredients that I have here.
That you have available to you.
Available.
So there's never like a dish where you're like, oh, it needs, more of X or Y.
Sure. No, we don't. That's something that maybe in the future that we can look into. But right now, as far as what we have available at the time is the menu that I'm going to create.
Okay.
Like I said, these dishes I grew up with, so I know them like the back of my hand.
Yeah. That's one other thing I was thinking about. Like, you hadn't lived in Laos since 1977, so it's 40 years. But so were your parents cooking this food growing up all the time, and your uncle and taught you how to make it? I mean, how did you? Because you were cooking at Denny's and the Sheraton to start your culinary career. How did you learn to then make authentic Laotian cuisine?
So in Philadelphia, there's a huge Laotian community. So they would have events, New Year's and festivals, and then there would be a, Philadelphia section off in Northeast, West Philly, South
neighborhoods
Philly.
like New York.
Yeah, sure.
So they would have festivals and they would have events, and we would go to their homes, and they would have food on the tables or event spaces and ready to be eaten. So I was able to grow up with those kind of environment.
Okay, got it. So that was like a little. Okay.
It might not be as big as Laos, but it's the community itself. That's where the support comes from, and the older generations that has the experience, that lived in Laos, share these recipes and ingredients with us. And I was able to, being in the industry, and I was able to absorb all those information. And plus, my mom is a great cook.
Okay.
She was wonderful in the kitchen, and being the oldest sibling in my household when my parents are out at work, I would have to steam the rice or make the gel or get something started so they come home and they can just have, finish off what I've started, and then they can go to bed.
Got it. So it was learned at home. Okay.
Yes.
And what, as a non-Asian person and a non-Laotian person, what is the signature dish, or you can give me 3 if you need to, that one needs to eat for the novice, non-knowing about this food?
For me personally, if my go-tos would be, I have to translate it in English, papaya salad.
Yeah.
That's a definitely go-to for me. And these are pretty basic. Pat Lau, when his mom makes it, it's great.
It's a noodle dish?
It is. It's people compare it to Pad Thai. I'm not a fan of Pad Thai, but Pat Lau I love. And that's something that takes me to his mom. When she makes that, it's just my world. And soup-wise, I'm going to go with the pho. I love Laotian pho. And not experiencing much Southeast Asian food previous to Lon, I am, out of all the Asian foods now, my go-to Southeast Asian. It's so much cleaner and lighter to me. But those are my 3 definitely go-tos. His papaya salad's good.
Yeah.
His dad's is crazy good.
Oh.
Yeah, Dad spoils me.
Do they live here? Do they live here?
No, they're up in Philadelphia.
Oh.
But when
Will he ever guest stage at SAAP?
Sure, of course.
We could hope. We could definitely hope. He'd probably say, "No, you just make it for me, and I'll tell you what to do."
Yeah,
there you go. Being almost 80 now, but and like he was saying, with his mom's cooking and learning that way, to this day, when you walk in back home, you're walking back into Laos. She does everything traditionally.
Oh wow!
From making beef jerky in the oven all day to pork belly soup taking all day to cook. So she's a great teacher. Teacher.
Now I see your pull and need for authenticity. Like you're trying to recreate that, not recreate that, but paying homage to that kitchen. So, absolutely. Well, this is great. Thank you guys for what you do and for bringing this cuisine to North Carolina and now to Cary, to downtown Cary, which for those of you that don't know and that are sleeping on it, there is amazing things happening there. As you guys say you are adjacent to the newly renovated Downtown Cary Park. I think they put $68 million, which is pretty a record for a local park of this area. Plus, you have all the other great restaurants and breweries and stuff there. So there's a lot happening that it's all walking distance within downtown Cary. Absolutely. So thank you for coming here. Oh, before we get out of here, I don't know when we'll release this episode, if it will be this week or next week, but what are you guys making for Thanksgiving?
We're doing typical turkey and stuff, but we always have sticky rice and papaya salad every year for Thanksgiving.
That makes a lot of sense.
And even my side of the family has requests it every year. They're like, you have to make it right.
That makes so much sense. Because like the papaya salad is so refreshing. And then, it
goes great with turkey.
And the sticky rice is almost, I feel like, just more interesting than the mashed potatoes because it'll absorb all the flavors.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going back to combining heritages and community. It's a community table on Thanksgiving.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, for all of you out there, have a very happy Thanksgiving. Go to SAAP in Cary, downtown Cary, and you will eat and drink extremely merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.